my name is Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. If you get it and liked it, then subscribe, bell notification, give the video a thumbs up. I am so sorry that I missed every time. I am so sorry that I missed the past like 2, if not 3 uploads. One week I was just dead ass super burnt out from going back to work, and work has been chaos. It's always busy in January, especially with being gone for most of December from work. And then that's when like everything rolls over and reports, and then we are running these webinars and I'm helping facilitate them, and they've just been eating up a lot of my time. And then the second week I just straight up forgot. I put it on my list of things to do and forgot. So I thought we'd do like a December wrap up and a bit of a life update, I guess. Like, yeah. Maybe I should do that more like wrap up, because I feel like just like the world is so depressing, and thinking of like all of the things I succeeded in like doing in the last like month or so. So starting off with like life update, if you're not interested, I will put like a timestamp here of where you can jump to when I start talking about books. But December was big relief. I basically don't work December because of all of my overtime and vacation pay that had added up, because they don't like you to fold that over into the next year, and like it was kind of hard to take vacations with everything that was happening with COVID, and libraries in Alberta basically got shut down for in-person services again in I think the first week of December or so. So with Christmas holidays and everything, it's just been a lot. And we had a lot of change at my job this year. December was really nice to just chill, and I didn't do anything really. I didn't do a ton of reading. I spent a lot of time with my mom and my sister, who I don't really see all that often, and this year was just a very rough year with losing my grandfather and just other family stuff. So it was really nice, relaxing, and I got to meet a new puppy because my sister got a puppy in the last few months, and blue healer and lots of energy. So I got to meet new puppy and just relax and chill. Also in November, and I think I got it in December, I got an espresso machine, and it's like literally the best purchase ever freaking ever made. And I wish my city had an espresso store. We don't, so I have to buy everything online. But you know, c'est la vie until I live somewhere that has an espresso store. Oh yeah, I bought a bed. I had never owned a new bed. I always got like it concerns me that we used to, like, as a society, or maybe it was just me, but I remember as a society it was always like, your new bed is your grandmother's bed. We acted like beds were family heirlooms, and then you see, you're like, after like 5 years, half of the weight of a mattress is dead skin, and you're like, we were doing what with mattresses? I have never owned a new mattress. I always got either like the one that was at my dorm rooms in undergrad, or, you know, we got one at Goodwill or Salvation Army, you know, when it was super cheap and I needed a bed. So I've never owned a new bed. Even when I was here, actually, when I moved here, the bed that I bought off of Kijiji, I was like, I think the 4th owner of it. And like, it did me good for like a few years, but my back was starting to hurt and whatever. And I didn't like it, never quite fit the frame properly, and then I found out basically after I got my new mattress delivered, which I fucking love. I got to pick it based on how it supports me. It felt like the bougiest thing ever, and I was also wildly like off on what I thought the price point of mattresses were. I always thought they were like $5,000. I don't know why I thought that. Yeah, that's not it. But now that I have a queen bed, I'm like, oh, that dude actually gave me a queen frame and like a double or a full mattress box spring. That's why it never quite fit. I have a box spring and a mattress that I picked out, and it came with a frame. And then if you live in Canada, go through Sleep Country if you're buying a new mattress, because they will, I think it's $15 a piece. They will take for $15 each item, they will take mattresses and box springs and then upcycle the material instead of it going directly into a waste landfill. So that was totally worth it. It was free in town delivery. It was like the best purchase I've ever made, and like I'm just so happy that I did it. It felt like such a big adult move, that plus the car. And this month I'm waiting for it to get delivered in March, I think it is. I bought myself a new couch, and again, never owned a new couch. When I moved here, I got 2 given to me for free by coworkers. They had that fake leather peeling crap off of it. Again, did me for 4 years or whatever, or those, I don't even think those did me 4 years. I think that did me 2 years. And then I bought for like $200 this like 5-piece sectional. it's giant, and that, again, that fake leather stuff, and it just has not been super durable for me. So I was looking, and I wanted one of those, like, it's a love seat, and then the end is like an extended leg, so it's like a big L, and then underneath the love seat part you can pull out to make, it's like a futon bed basically. Super space efficient. Oh, and then the long part that I think it's called like the sleeper sectional part of it, you can lift it and there's storage in there. Super space efficient. And I found one at the Brick, and it was like pretty on sale because it's like, well, it was the beginning of the year, end of last year's sales. So I bought one with like the durable, easy clean material. I have to wait just because it's the most popular version that they do. I have to wait until March for mine to get delivered, but like, I'm buying a new couch that is like I picked. I've never ever done these things. They're just like such giant purchases, and I'm like, I know I forgot to do this stuff on YouTube, but I've been doing that. And like, I bought myself brand new pillows that aren't from Walmart. I've never done that before. I bought myself a lamp from HomeSense. I have no recollection of ever buying a new lamp. I eventually want to buy a new dresser, and I looked and I didn't buy one because I didn't find one that I liked the aesthetic of it. And I was like, I've never like, it just, I've done so much adult stuff, and then I've been doing really excellent. I'm really proud of myself on meal planning and eating well. I have not eaten out in weeks. I've been using my Nespresso thing nonstop, and working from home has definitely been helping me stay on track. And then I meal prep on Sundays, which is why I forgot one week totally about doing this. And like just keeping my fridge clean and just getting into the habit of ordering groceries online and then picking it up that way instead of going into the store or being tempted. And like, I go on Pinterest and I find these recipes. I'm like, this is actually feasible for me. This sounds good, and this is pretty healthy. Okay, let's do that. I have bento boxes now that have been helping keep me on track. I have not weighed myself either. I just genuinely feel better, like so much better. And like, I just feel good about myself. And I don't think I've felt like this good about myself ever, or in a really, really long time, for this like long stretch of time. So I know the world, and I kind of do feel guilty about that because I know the world is going through so much shit right now, but I'm just happy about that. Oh, also I bought one of those like hot brush things. Okay, I have a lot of fucking hair, if you can't tell. A fucking ton of it, okay? This is like maintained length, okay? Like, this is it. It takes me, when I have like a curling iron or a straightener, approximately 2 to 3 hours to do that once my hair is dry. So you've got to add like bare minimum 2 to 3 hours on top of that for hair to dry. So I just generally never had the time or energy or arm like strength to do my hair continuously. I bought one of those hot rod things at Marshall's for $40. It was the fucking best thing I've ever done. Took me half an hour to do this, and it lasts me like a week. Like a week. And it feels better. Oh my god, it was just like, because I was forever wanting to buy that like super expensive like $700 Dyson Airwrap thing, which is definitely still interested in it because everyone seems to love it, but like $700 is a lot, and it's like fucking sold out everywhere. For $40 I bought myself something at Marshall's, and it does a fucking amazing job, and I just feel more put together at work. Oh, I've just done a lot, and I'm really proud of myself. Oh my god, and editing Sam here, totally forgot. I opened up 2 savings accounts. Was not even aware there were 2 types of savings accounts, but I went to a money lady at the bank, and she explained shit to me that I maybe understood about half of it, but I have 2 savings accounts now. And I'm sure you guys have done a lot that have makes you feel proud of yourself. So with this world being as shit as it is, let's try and get into the habit at the end of each month of patting ourselves on the back, of doing some good shit. And in February, my goal for myself is to not go impulse buy leftover Valentine's Day chocolate, because I don't fucking need it, and it takes me forever to go through that shit. I still have like Halloween candy in my cupboards because I'm a single fucking human, and I don't eat a lot of chocolate. I'll have 1 or 2 pieces of a small like Halloween sized candy bar, and I'm fucking done. That's it. Like, that's all I consume. I have mint chocolate chip because I love mint chocolate, and you're a monster if you don't. And it's in my cupboard because it was Christmas. That shit will still be there in July because it takes me forever to eat that shit. I don't need to go buy Valentine's Day, Boxing Day chocolates, okay? So that is my goal for myself, and we'll see if I can hopefully stay on it. Honestly, it's been so easy to not impulse buy that shit because I haven't been going to Shoppers Drug Mart all that often. Just haven't needed to. And Shoppers Drug Mart is like Target for Canadians. So anyways, let's Let's talk about books. So December, I did not read nearly as much because, like I said, I spent time with my sister and my mom, and I think it was for like 2 weeks or so. I genuinely didn't read anything, and I started reading something I think on like December 30th, but I didn't finish it until January, so it goes into January's TBR. But anyways, these are the books that I read in December and general thoughts / ratings of them. I read The Duke and I by Julia Quinn because I was prepping for the Bridgerton series to come out, which if you have not watched season 1, definitely recommend. It got renewed for season 2. I'm very excited, and I want to read the books along with the TV shows. So as we get a premiere date for season 2, I will read book 2 because I know each book switches between a different sibling. But this one was pretty enjoyable. There's a very like if you've read it, you know what scene I'm talking about. But there's this thing with the main character and her husband where she finds out things about him, and essentially like I don't know what to use other than like sexually assault him, and I don't like how it was dealt with in the book, but I don't know if it like what role it plays, and like but in the I don't know, there's been so many discussions about it, so that was like uncomfortable, and I didn't know what to do with that, and like I was like, this book isn't super old, like why was this put in here and nothing was done with it, and like I don't know how I feel about that. But the book, other than that, I don't know how to explain that. It was alright. I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the TV show way more, but I want to kind of keep following along, and I'm curious to see what we're going to do with specifically the brothers, because we look at the gender roles of the main female character in book 1 and the time, and then the brothers are very, very different situations. So I'm definitely curious. This is like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, I think, kind of. I don't know. I'm super uncomfortable with that scene though. I read The Black Tides of Heaven by the author's name that I'm so sorry I can't pronounce. This was really, really interesting read. I had to wait forever because in like my entire province of libraries, one library had it, and I had to wait for it into the library loaned in, which took for forever. But anyways, such a good novella. Such a good novella. I am super excited to keep reading the rest of this. I think it's a quartet. I'm going to try and slip it in throughout the rest of my TBRs throughout the year, because once a month I'm trying to read a graphic novel or novella. And honestly, I try to plan out that stuff pretty far in advance, so I have some of the slots on my Excel spreadsheet filled in, and I kind of already filled up my entire year of novellas. So we'll see where I can fit it in, but just solid 5 out of 5 stars. Excellent read. Then I read Dark Archives, and this was the nonfiction book. I was super, super excited. Wait, I think I bought this. Hold on one second. Totally right. I bought Dark Archives. I originally read the audiobook through Scribd because it is a nonfiction book and adult, so it was quite pricey in Canada. And I read the book via audiobook on Scribd, and it is freaking fantastic. So interesting, so incredibly interesting. I love finding these weird nonfiction books. Nonfiction like biographies, memoirs, none of that shit ever interests me. Or like vague, like the History of Canada book. No, but you find these weird books like The Art of Butchering or The Royal Art of Poisoning. All these ones that are like wildly weird topics that you do a deep dive in. It's like John Oliver's Last Week Tonight. It's just, they're so fascinating and so interesting, and I learned so much, and they're so accessibly written. So the subtitle of this is A Librarian's Investigation into the Science and History of Books Bound in Human Skin. So that is the actual subject of this book. It is so accessibly written, so accessibly written. It's, the main character is a librarian, but it's very focusing on the science and how they've come up with a test that can test, because there's old, like they use animal skin, like that's not uncommon for old books, but then they found a way to test essentially the skin to find out if it's human or if it's animals, and like what kind of animals, because there are a bunch of claims from like the past several centuries that it's a book bound in human skin, and they analyze this, like, why are they marketing it as such? Why was this such an in-demand thing? Why, when they marketed it, did they specify race? Was there like, what was this hierarchy? Then it jumped into this concept and discussion on consent and how to verify consent when someone has passed, and like, when do we, like, what if they gave consent but their family estate revokes that consent? What does that mean? Where do we house these things? How do we take care of them? And then this deep dive into racism within the healthcare system, especially in the United States. It was so incredibly interesting. It also does touch on that infamous lamp of human skin that one of the Nazis had. I remember hearing about that in a couple classes, but no one was quite sure if it was like real or if it was just someone saying it was human skin, and like the whole issue with that. It is so interesting. I can't believe how much is discussed, and it's such a short book. I think the audiobook was like 7 hours long or something like that total. It was wildly short, and I got to the end, I was like, how the hell did she fit all of this into such a compact book. It is so accessibly written, even if you're not a big science person. I failed grade 10 biology, so like even that, totally comprehensible. And this is not just like a book for like librarians by any means. It's so interesting and so fascinating, and touches on things that like racism and healthcare and consent and all these things that are still very prevalent in our discussion on like everything today. So I would highly recommend this book. Even if you're not a big nonfiction person, definitely give this a shot. 5 stars. Then I read The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I can't believe that like I never read this, because I would have like eaten the shit out of this as a kid. This was such an like, I will fully admit, I never saw the movie, and I know everyone hated the movie who read the book, but like I was just like, I remember seeing the trailers and commercials. This is not the tone I got at all from the book series. Loved the main characters. I loved this like the polar bear like battle off thing that happened, and like how her father and her mother are like the two like most messed up human beings. I have started watching the TV series, HBO. I am halfway through season 2, and I haven't heard if they renewed it for a 3rd season. I hope they do. It's such a good TV show. Highly recommend that. The books though, like, oh my gosh, so good. And I did see somewhere that they are releasing an illustrated edition of the first one, the way that they're doing with like the Harry Potter series and the Percy Jackson. So I don't own them, but I am going to watch for that one and see what the artwork looks like, and that may be what I end up purchasing, because this was such a good book and I want to read the whole series. And I think the illustrations will like just, this is a series that would like lend itself so well to being illustrated, and it's just so interesting and kind of steampunky, kind of like fantasy vibes. It also reminded me a little bit of what's that book series by Edith Petu? Is one called West and one called East, something like that. Gave me a little bit of those vibes, I think, because of the settings, but it's very, very interesting. Such a weird concept. I would have adored this growing up, especially, but solid 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Hush by Dylan Farrow. This is the debut work by the I don't want to say the daughter of, because I feel like he's just a shit person. Just Google her. So she's done a bunch of things. So this is her debut work though. I enjoyed this. I think it's a traditional YA fantasy and kind of everything that you expected. I do think it was pretty well written. I was kind of hesitant that they maybe gave her a book deal because her name is recognizable, but I didn't get that impression. I am curious to see what's going to happen in book 2. I know it's supposed to be a duology. And so I did enjoy it, but I think I read several like stellar 5-star books that I literally just mentioned that I really quickly forgot about this book. So I think that's something, if you're really struggling with YA fantasies right now, the way that I have been, because some of them are very similar or they don't just stand out in some way specifically, this may not be something you're interested in. But if you're comfortable in that YA fantasy space with you know, all of the stuff coming out right now in 2020 and 2021, this is probably something I would suggest maybe giving a go. So this was like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I freaking finally read The Tombs by Deborah Schomburg. It took me like 2 years to finally pick this thing up. This was really interesting, and I did not know this was based off of a true place. So I didn't realize until at the very end of this, there's a footnote, or not a footnote, like at the end, it's like before the acknowledgements but after the epilogue. It just says The Tombs, which that's the name of the book, right? The Tombs was a real prison built in 1838. I had no idea it was based on a real place. I'm assuming the way that it ends is very different from how the original prison ended. But I think that's so, I love when we take these places that have like just these obscurities. Like we all know like Rikers Island and all that shit, but taking like these random things that were real in history that people have kind of forgotten about, and that you can just like do your own thing with them and maybe highlight them in the way that this book did for me. It was modeled after an Egyptian mausoleum and designed to strike fear into the heart of potential criminals. Built over Collect Pond, a dumping ground for slaughterhouses and tanneries, the tomb began to sink from the moment it was built. So you can imagine like what the cellars and shit were like in this place. So it's really, really interesting, and that it talks, this book has a little bit about like local, not small town because it's in a city, but like community corruption, and the main character's mother, what happened to her and her father. It's a very depressing book, but I found it really fascinating because it felt like a urban set fantasy a little bit, historically, you know what I mean? It was really interesting. I'm disappointed that they didn't make this an audiobook, because I feel like with all of the explosions and everything that happened in this would be a really cool one to have like a proper like radio production kind of audiobook. That's too bad. And I don't think I've seen anything else come out from this author, so that's too bad. But this was a really fascinating read, actually, and I'm kind of surprised I've never interacted with someone else who's read this. So it was a good book. I think like 4 out of 5 stars in the end. Then I read the audiobook arc I got for My Contrary Mary by Cynthia Hand, Jody Meadows, and Brody Ashton. This is the new trilogy that they ladies who did the Lady Janie series, they're doing the Marys now. So this was Mary Queen of Scots. As someone who enjoys history, I think when I looked at the Janie series, my favorite of them is My Lady Jane. I enjoyed the rest of them, but My Lady Jane, just because I have done so much background research on my own or through school, on the tutors, I found it really interesting. I don't think My Contrary Mary hit any of the comedic note the way that My Lady Jane's did. My love of that series is the fact that it has all this history, it plays with a bunch of metaphors, and it is funny. I think My Contrary Mary is a good historical fiction retelling and giving her a bit different path than she ends up on, but I think it really didn't have any of the high comedy the way that My Lady Jane was. I was expecting maybe some of it was hidden in the rest of the books of the Jane series, the My Plain Jane and My Calamity Jane, just because I don't know as much about them. But now that I've done Mary Queen of Scots, I know a lot about Mary Queen of Scots, I think they're enjoyable, but it's just not as good as My Lady Jane. And that's disappointing, but I'm definitely going to still be buying a copy and probably reading it when it comes out officially. It's by no means a bad book, I don't want you to think that, but it just, none of the books that they have read or written since there have like compared to My Lady Jane, unfortunately. So it's like a 4.5 out of 5 star read. Then I picked up The Barren Grounds by David A. Robertson. He is an Indigenous Canadian author, and this was pitched kind of all over the place as Narnia, but with Indigenous lens, and I could definitely see that having read it. The main character is adopted, is in the middle of being fostered, I think technically, her and this other boy by these new parents. And if you don't know anything about the Canadian foster care system, especially for Indigenous children, it is overwhelmingly high representation of Indigenous people in there, way above what it should be for the population representation, unfortunately. And so this girl is struggling the way that any foster child, I think, really does. And her parents are trying to do their best, that they are non-Indigenous, but they want her to keep in touch with that. And then she kind of storms off after an argument of them trying to, do their best to keep her in touch with that side of her, her Indigenous side. And she goes through this portal and ends up in this like super cold, like an Arctic-y atmosphere, and all of the animals for the most part can talk, and there's conflicts going on in this world, and she wants to help solve it, but they have to make sure they get back to the house in time, her and her foster brother. So it's a really enjoyable read. I definitely recommend this one, especially for middle grade children, and I think it brings up a few good discussion topics, because I know people who do end up adopting Indigenous children. They do in some communities try and keep Indigenous children with Indigenous families because of all of the historical issues with that. But I do know people who are like, if I'm adopting this child, I want to help them stay in touch with that side. I'm not trying to erase if they're from the Cree or Blackfoot, wherever. And it's this balance that you have to find. So I think it brings up some really good discussions that it may hit home for some families, I think, in Canada and the United States, really. So this is really fun. I think it's like a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Secret Keepers by, forgot the author's name. Totally gone from my brain. I'm sorry. This was really fun. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be. There's not as much of it being set on like a stormy coast with a lighthouse as I was expecting based on the cover and the title. But it was really fun. I liked the main character. He's very, very smart, and very, I don't know what the word is. Like, he's like, I'm gonna go do this and figure this out. I'm just gonna go do it. And very just like affirmative in that he's going to figure things out. I love that in middle grade books. This was really enjoyable, like 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Witch's Hand, the first volume of the Montague Twins graphic novel series by Nathan Page and Drew Shannon. This is alright. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I don't think I'll read the rest of the next one, but I like the setting. in like is it like the 80s or something like that? I don't think that I've really read many graphic novels with that setting. So this was an enjoyable, alright read. It's like a 3.5 out of 5 stars for me. Then I binged the heck out of The Winterhouse Mysteries by Ben Gutterson. That's the 3rd book in the Winterhouse series. I love that series. I love how it ended. It's just a classic winter middle grade fantasy and this magical hotel. I love everything that happens. I like how it's wrapped up. It's just a fairly clean wrap up, and I think it's relatively a happy ending to the series. So I really liked that and appreciated that, especially to read it in December. I think it was a really good just bow on the series to way they end it. Then I read Under the Broken Sky by Mariko Nagaya. Nagai? I'm not totally sure. Sorry about that. This is really interesting. It's set in Japan during, is it? Yeah, I think it's technically, I don't know. The borders are like a little wonky because of all of the invasions and everything in here. But the main character is with her sibling, in this kind of small community, which ends up being all of the men basically are enlisted into World War II, and her only guardian at the time, because her mother and her father are both gone, her uncle gets drafted and has to go. And everything that kind of falls out from that when you live in this like weird border space, that you can kind of, I'm just thinking of all the communities that have at one point been parts of different countries, and like I know so many people even through work who were like, yeah, no, I lived in the Soviet Union. Like it's so weird. So this was really fascinating to read. The main character is so incredibly strong, goes through so much, and then has this guilt at the end. I really liked this. It's written in verse, and I think it got a lot of emotions and everything across. I think the end I felt a little like, where are we going with this? What are we doing with this? Like, what is the purpose of like reliving this action over and over again the way it does end? And I don't know why it ended that way. But I really enjoyed this. I think it talked about a geographic place in a certain time period that I don't think I've ever read any literature on, and don't really have a ton of information on myself. So this was an enjoyable read, and it's like 4 out of 5 stars. A Murder in Time. I ended up DNFing this. I got like a little, I don't know, maybe 6 chapters in or something, and I hated the main character with a burning passion. It's like, I don't know, I think this setup is supposed to make me like her and her ambition, and I don't like her. So we're just gonna end it there, and I will move on to another book. So this was a DNF for me. And I also tried to give Given to the Sea by Mindy McGinnis another shot, and I just can't. I enjoy Mindy McGinnis. I'm aware of how her writing is. It did not lend itself well to whatever this story was. It's weird. It was, I didn't like it, unfortunately. I mean, like, each time I think now I've gotten more into the book, like, in terms of length. I've gotten farther into it. Like, it would literally be less time for me to finish reading it than the amount of time I've read it for. And I'm still just like, no, it's not worth it. So it's unfortunate. But once in a while, you're gonna not like one book by an author. That's just how it works. I picked up The Scapegracers. I ended up DNFing this, but mostly because I had no issue with the writing or anything like that. It's a very like high school romance character. Just everything like when you think of like a YA witches in a contemporary setting for the most part. So it just wasn't what I was interested in reading at the time. When I'm back in the mood to read something like that, I will pick that up and give it another shot, because I think it had a lot of potential from the first few chapters I did read. Then I read The Blood Print, which I actually enjoyed a fair amount. I don't know that it's especially unique in the realm of YA fantasies, but I really enjoyed the writing. I liked the world. I liked the characters. I liked the limits that were set were fairly distinct and clear. The ending was wild for sure. I definitely want to read the sequels. I was going to buy hard copies of the UK from Waterstones, and I just wanted to read book 1 to make sure I was going to like it, because the cost and like the shipping from the UK is a lot. And I read book 1 and I was like, I like this. And then I went on Waterstones, and all of a sudden all 4 of the books were unavailable. So I will, I guess, I don't know what I'll do with that, but I will definitely be reading the rest of the series. It was really interesting. I liked it in terms of being a YA fantasy, even though I am struggling a little bit with YA fantasies in the last year or two. And yeah, like this is like a 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 stars. It was a really good book. I think I also read To Have and To Hoax. Like, I'm 99% sure. I didn't write it down in my book like I should have because I'm stupid, but I'm like 99% sure I definitely did read this in December. I'm fairly certain. I'll have to double check and I'll cut this out if not. But this is a reread for me. I absolutely loved. If you're a friend of A Curious Beginning, the Veronica Speedwell series, this is one I would definitely recommend you give a shot. It's got very comedic tone. This couple in like Victorian-ish era are like playing a game of chicken in their marriage, which is just, it's very messed up. There's some saucy scenes in here, and I am excited because the author has a new work coming out. I think it's called To Love and To Loathe or something like that, and they changed the freaking covers. Because why the fuck not? So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really like this. I know it's simple, but I like this one. I wish they would just kept this. I don't know. Anyways, but I love this series still. It's just an enjoyable comfort read. And then I think the last book that I did finish reading in the month of December, because I think everything else I started afterwards I didn't finish in December, was The Maggle Street Murders. It was recommended to me under like some system that I use for work for fans of A Curious Beginning, so I gave it a shot. It was fine. It was just okay. It was okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There was nothing super great about it. It was just a okay mystery. I think the ending was a little frantically put together, and it started telling you at the end, like the way that, you know, you connect all these dots to solve it, and you're like, half of this information wasn't given for us though. Like, it would be impressive and I could be like, oh my god, when we tie all these things together, if I had known this information from the book for like I just felt like it was just kind of like all of a sudden like slapped together of like, this is the ending, and you're like, okay, if you say so. So it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just in the middle. It's all right. I don't hate that I read it, I just don't intend on buying it or rereading it. And least favorite, most surprising, and most favorite. Least favorite is definitely going to go to The Maggle Street Murders. Most surprising this month, I would probably give it to The Golden Compass. And my absolute favorite would definitely be Dark Archives, which was surprising because it is a nonfiction, which can be very meh, but this was just an incredibly fascinating, interesting read. So yeah, that was my December. I am sorry it's so late. Next week we should be on time. Next Tuesday will be the February TBR video, and yeah, if you had any successes in the past month or the end of the year, please share it below and give yourself a pat on the back. Let me know what you read in the month of December if you can still remember that far back, because I am so damn behind. And I will link these books in the description box down below. I'll also link all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Stay safe, wear a mask, Black Lives Matter, and congratulations to the United States. You had a peaceful transition of power on Inauguration Day. I know the QAnon people are still running with conspiracy theories, but it was just generally really nice to watch from Canada. I know my premier in Alberta is like losing his damn mind because Joe Biden canceled the Keystone Pipeline, but that's what happens when you put all of your tax dollars into a single industry that is completely dependent on a resource that is not never-ending and has fluctuated in the market continuously and has all these negative things attached to it. So good on you, Joe Biden, for that. And I'll talk to y'all later.